Okay, in this demo, we're going to be talking about classes and TypeScript within classes. Here I'm creating a class. We're going to call it vehicle, and we're going to put a property on the class. We're going to call the property color, and we're going to give it a type of string. All right, now we're going to give it a visibility. There are several different types of visibility. There's a public, private, and protected. Here we're going to give it a public visibility, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And we're going to give it a constructor. That's so we can instantiate and use this class. We're going to show you how to do that just a minute down below. So here I have a constructor which takes the color, and we're setting, if we call this, we can select the properties on the class that I set, which is one of them is color, and we're going to set it to the color that we're passing in. And down here, we have another property. I'm going to skip over everything that's grayed out, that's I'm commented out, and talk about them later. So drive vehicle is another property, and we're just going to console log out just the something we're just saying that we're calling this property, and it's going chug chug. The vehicle, the drive vehicle is also a public visibility, and when we say something that's public visible, we say it's world visible, or it's another way of saying it. We can access it from anywhere. So I'm going to talk about that down here in a minute. Down here, we have a honk property. We're also going to console log something about the honk and the protected visibility on that. And I'll talk about why we're calling protected on that in a minute. So down here, I'm instantiating the vehicle with a new keyword. That's how you use the vehicle class. And we're passing in an orange property, which is going to set the color to orange. And we're going to set it to vehicle constant. And then we're going to console log vehicle.color. We can call the vehicle.color directly because it's publicly visible. So if I set this to private, this would error out because we cannot see private variables, only this public variable from outside the class. Same thing with protected. Still an error. So backtrack, go to public. Looks good, everything's good. Then we're going to call the vehicle, which is also public, drive vehicle, and we're going to get this log statement. All right, so I'm going to execute this code. And here we see that it's printing out the color. It's orange, that's what we passed in. And here we're seeing it's printing out this drive statement from what it's the console log is there. So let's talk about a couple different options here. Instead of putting the public keyword, we could put sorry, I'll just come down here because that's exactly what I did down here. Instead of putting public, we can just write nothing, which is the default, and we should get the same exact thing. If I run this down below, we're going to get the same exact thing out. So that's one shorthand. Another thing we can do is, take away the public from that property as well. We're still going to get the same output. And finally, what we can do is we can change the constructor. So instead of writing out this, what this property is up here, we can just put the word public there and comment out that property, and it will automatically, get rid of this, and it will automatically do the logic internally on the behind the scenes of setting the color here and actually placing the color property on the class. So we don't have to do anything. All we have to do is put the public, and we can shorthand everything. So instead of running it that way, I wrote it down here just with my notes here. So I'm going to comment this out. All we have is just a public there, and we make it very shorthand in the class. It's very much less code, much easier to read, and we execute it, and we're going to get the same exact result. So moving on over to the instantiation, or let's comment out this stuff here. And see that we're getting nothing now. Good. When I execute it, we want to make a child of the vehicle. We're going to call the child a car, and so we're going to extend the vehicle here, and we're calling something a car, and we're going to create a constructor again as well. And this constructor, we're going to give it a wheels property, and because we put public in there, it's going to create the wheels property for us and set it just like we did over here. But we're also going to pass in the color property. And that color property here, we're passing it to super. When we say super, that's going to go right up to the vehicle here. And that's going to call the vehicle's constructor, and it's going to set the color on that vehicle, the parent. And then right here, we're making a private property, and we're going to show how the private works, and we're setting a string here. We're saying that that's the drive function on the car that we're calling. And down here, we created a start process property as well. And here we're calling the drive car property that we just created here. I can show it here. It's selectable with the interface, as well as the drive vehicle property, which is on the parent. Over here, we can easily select the parent properties of this class as well, because it's extending, and as well as the parent protected properties. So both the public, as this is the default public, and protected are visible from the child class. So here, I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to instantiate the car. So I create new car, just like I did here with the new vehicle. And I'm going to pass in 4 for the number of wheels, and color, we're going to make it red. So if I try to call the drive car property, it's not there. It doesn't come up in our selection. Why is that? Because the drive car is private. So private variables are not visible from outside the class, but they are visible from inside the class. And here we're going to try to call honk. Honk visible is also, honk property is also not visible. It's in the parent class and it's protected. It's visible within the child class, but it's not visible from calling with outside the child. When you're using the child class, you can't call it. Only if it's public can you call it that way. And then we have the drive vehicle. The drive vehicle is on the parent. It's public, so it's visible outside, including in the when you're instantiating the child object. We can still call it. So down here, I'm going to call the wheels, and we can that is callable because it's public, so it's publicly visible again. And here I'm going to call the colors because that is also public. It's default public here, and it was public as here as well. So that's visible, as well as we can call the start driving process, which is also public. So no problem there. We're going to get rid of these because this is going to cause an error. We've got no errors in our class. And we're gonna go ahead and run this and see what happens. Okay, so first thing that happened is we got a color is red because we're passing red to this instead of passing the orange here. We called this constructor with red here. And it's printing it out from drive vehicle. Sorry. The first thing it's printing out is the drive vehicle, which is drive car, which is here in the child class, drive car, and it's printing out the car. Sorry, it's printing out the vehicle right here because the vehicle is hit first. The drive vehicle is what I'm calling first. And then I'm calling this method down here later. So drive vehicle is hit first, and it's calling the drive vehicle in the parent class. And then we're saying how many wheels does it have here? We're setting that to 4. That was 4. We set that in the constructor here, 4. And then after that, we see that the color is red because we print that out here. Color is red. And then it's going to call these properties, all these properties, and it's hitting whatever's coming out here. So this is the child property here, the drive car. So that should be car drive, chugga chugga chugga, car drive, chugga chugga chugga. This should be the parent drive vehicle right here, which is this one. So that should be the vehicle drive. See, that's a vehicle drive here. And then we have the last thing, the honk, which is the parent. And that's accessible here because, again, it is a child, and child protected are visible within the child. And here we can see that the vehicle honk is being called. So let's change out our one thing here. Let's, instead of calling this honk on this function, let's name our own honk function in the child class. What is that going to do for us? That's going to override this function, this property here, and use the property that's in the child when we call this honk right here. So very down, the last thing here, instead of saying vehicle honk, now it should say car honk. So run that again and see if we down here it says car honk instead because we overrid it. So that's exactly what we wanted to happen. And last thing what we can do is instead of using the constructor here, we can get rid of that and we can use the constructor from the parent class, which is here instead, and just call that constructor. So this is giving me an error here because I'm passing in two properties into the car object, but now our constructor only has one property. So I'm going to get rid of that instantiation and I'm going to call with this instantiation instead, which is just passing in one car, one property, and then we're going to say it's blue instead of red. And we got to get rid of this down here because I'm accessing a property wheels which does not exist anymore because we did not set that in the parent constructor. So I think we got all the errors out of here now, and go ahead and run this and we should get the car is blue, right? Because that's what we passed in here. We passed in blue, and we should get everything else should be pretty much the same. Seems like I'm missing one other thing that we wanted to check to see, but I think everything else is good. So everything, all the other functions are working as normal, as they normally would. As the only thing that's changed is just the constructor and the color, and there's no wheels. So that's it for this demo of TypeScript classes. Thanks for watching.